Happy Monday. Guess what? This is the last week of January. We're done with January. I heard somebody say, I don't know what the date was, but they were like, people that made New Year's resolutions are going to work out, going to lose weight, going to do this or that. That there are like so many days at the beginning of the year that people kick off their New Year's resolutions, but then they count the days when New Year's resolutions are just out the door. Nobody's paying attention to them. I don't know if we reached that day or not, but this is the last week of January. Okay. So, whatever you had planned to do for the year in January or the end of December, February, you need to hit the ground running. You have made all your plans in January. February, you need to start putting that thing in motion. Okay, this is not a motivational podcast or video, but just thought I'd throw that out there. So I hope you guys are having had a good weekend and planning to have a good week. If not, I am praying that you have a good week. Did I mention this is Audacity Presents? I think I did say welcome to the show. Welcome to Audacity Presents. Anyway, I'm all over the place today. I was thinking the other day, and I've been wanting to tell this to you guys, but I had to make myself a note so I'd remember it today. So I'm at this conference last year, and it's a leadership conference where all these leaders come together and they talk. We talked about discipleship. How do we implement discipleship in our church? And so they encourage us to sit with people that we don't know. Of course, I didn't really know anybody there, but I love to go to these leadership conferences just to find out information, to learn something new I may not know. Not that I know everything. But anyway, I'm at this conference. I'm sitting at this table with pastors of churches and youth pastors and ABL pastors, if there is such a thing. But I'm sitting of these people that are heavily involved in their church ministry. Not to say that I'm not, but and the majority of them at my table was men. So I will strike up a conversation. I know what it means to network. So I'm talking to this guy, and he asked me what did I do. So I told him I did full-time ministry, and that I had a podcast and a blog that I do every week. And so he kind of perked up, a bit when I said that. And so then he shared with me that he was one of the guest speakers at this conference. And mind you, there are over 3,000, if not more, people at this conference, okay? And he was one of the speakers. So we struck up a conversation, we're talking. And so he loops back around to the fact of my podcast. And this is what he says to me. Oh, you do the podcast. You have are you in a studio? Where do you record? Do you have a studio? And I looked at him and I proudly said, no, I do not have a studio. I record at my dining room table on my computer or my phone. And if you could have seen his demeanor change. And so for a minute, I was like, Lord, do I need to be in a studio? Am I not doing this right? You called me to do this ministry. Am I not doing it right? Do I need to be in a studio? And I mean, immediately, the Holy Spirit was just like, you are doing exactly what God called you to do. Look, I may not have this grand studio. I may not have um, my own intro music produced. I may not have a lot of things. You may not see a microphone hanging down, blah, blah, blah. I don't. But I am working with what I have to do what God has called me to do. I want y'all to think about that. I am not waiting. I am not procrastinating. I am not saving money. I am not trying to meet people to help me produce this podcast and my YouTube video. Babe, I am just using what I have to do what God has called me to do. Think about Moses. When God sent Moses to Pharaoh, what did he say? What do you have in your hand? All Moses had was a staff, and God used that to deliver his people out of Egypt. Y'all better think about that. Let me sit back and fold my arms on that. God used Moses and his staff, his cane. Let's bring it forward to today. His cane, his walking stick to deliver his people out of slavery from Egypt. So, for all of you that are sitting around, um, knowing that God has called you to do something and you think you have to make this grand entrance on the scene for what God has called you to do, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss the opportunity. Lord, the rapture may come back while you waiting to get everything together. I'm just saying. Use what you have. And that's not even the topic of this podcast, but use what you have to do what God has called you to do. I cannot say that enough. Use what you have to do what God has called you to do. And I really could end this podcast right here off of that. That's a word right there. Think about that. Okay, let's go on with the show. All right, so last week, I introduced the Audacity to walk away. I warned you guys that this may be a series, a couple of episodes, don't know yet, but we are going to talk about it today, the Audacity to walk away. So I shared with you guys 2.5 years ago, I walked away from my job. And I know that sounds harsh, but whether you call it walking away, stepping out on faith, stepping into a new season, they give it all kinds of names, but that's what I did. I had every intention of finding another job. But the important thing was during that time is that I knew God had called me to leave that job. I had no idea what was going to happen after I left, but there was a piece as I was sitting in a meeting with my clients, and he said, "It's time." And I told you guys last week that the desire for my job had just left. It wasn't that I was tired. I loved what I did. I loved working with people. I loved my boss. Yes, sometimes I would get mad at her and my coworkers, but I still loved what I did. I shared last week that my identity was in that job. That job, that's who I was. And the fact that I no longer had a desire for that job had nothing to do with being tired. I worked remotely from home and I loved worked many hours a day, every day. But the desire had left. And that's basically what I had prayed 3 years earlier. Lord, if I'm going to leave this job, you're going to have to come down from heaven and stare me in the eye. And it's like he said, I'm going to do one thing better. You will have no desire for this job. It will no longer be a fulfillment. It will no longer be your identity. And I'm sitting there while all of this is going through my head, and I'm like, oh, I need to put together a plan. Okay, I need to pay this off, and I need to move this money here, and I'm trying to figure this thing out. And then I'm tossing, thinking in my mind, Lord, was that you for real? Then I start being unsure. Okay, maybe there's something else going on. Okay, I am a woman of a certain age, and I am like, let me go make sure my hormones are in check. Let me go have a medical physical to make sure everything is good. This is a process that I'm going through. God has told me it's time to go, but yet I'm trying to rationalize in my head this process of, do I need to put together a plan, or am I going crazy? Do I need to let me go get checked out? Let me call my therapist. Let me have a session or two with her to make sure I'm still in my right mind. I'm telling you, this is what I was going through, knowing very well deep down it was nobody but God. And so when I had gone through these motions, and I know God was sitting there with his arms crossed, like, look, girl, I done told you what to do. Hmm. It wasn't, and y'all tell me this, it wasn't that I was disobedient because I did leave. I did walk away. But would you say I was disobedient in the beginning because it was like, let me make sure all these things are okay before I walk away. And when I tell you, when I shared with our member care pastor that God was calling me to walk away, literally burst into tears because I was frightened. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it meant. All I knew is that it was time. When I shared with my husband, I said, babe, God is calling me to leave this job. And he said, if that's what God is calling you to do, I said, it is. And so I left probably 2 months. I'm going to be honest, probably 2 months after I heard from God to leave. I think it was 2 months. Maybe it was 3 months. I think it was 2 months. I turned in my resignation. And it wasn't that there was another job. God was just, number one, calling me into something that my heart really desired. And that was to have the ability to do ministry full time. Now, does it pay? Y'all know ministry doesn't pay. Not in currency, let's put it that way, not monetarily, but I stepped out on faith. I moved into a new season. Uh, have I lacked for anything? Not a single thing. To wake up and have the freedom to say, Lord, what will you have me do today? To make the best use of my time where really my time is spent in his word, whether I am at church working on a project or working on this ministry. I have the luxury, I have the honor, I have the privilege to always be in the presence of the Lord. And I use that word always. I know that's strong, but it is. I mean, God is always on my mind. I am always thinking ministry, always. So, what's interesting is I can be doing, like I'm working on a project at church that's related to kingdom work. I am recording podcasts, writing blogs that is related to kingdom work. Um, what I do in my relationships with my family, always kingdom work, not stressed by a 9 to 5, not at all, not in the least, and still able to take care of what I need to take care of. That's a blessing, and I thank God for that. Will I go back to a corporate 9 to 5? I don't know. I just know in this season, I am doing what God has called me to do. And so I just kept going back to in Genesis with Abraham. When God called Abram to leave his country, to leave his land, to leave his father's house, and to go to a place that he would show him. Hmm. I thought about when my girls were younger, when I would get in the car and say, "Hey, y'all, come on, let's go." And the first thing they would ask is, "Where we going? How long we gonna be gone? When we coming back?" Abram packed up and left his father's home with no idea where he was going, how long he was going to be gone, what was going to be there when he got there. He just packed up and left. And so when we walk away, we need to walk away with that same faith, that same trust that when God speaks to us to walk away, when we know his voice and he is telling us to make a move, we need to move knowing that he has everything worked out. The plan has already been written. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's hard. It is by us still being in this flesh. We still have this fleshly body and this mind of, oh, wait a minute, let me make sure I got everything together, everything in order. And while we're trying to do that, we will miss our opportunity. We will miss our opportunity. And so the audacity to walk away does not require a process. Y'all know that song, when you move, I move just like that. When God moves, we need to move just like that. But you got to know that it is God calling you to move. I can't stress that enough. And when you do move, are you are you going to experience hardship, trouble? Don't know. But as long as you are confident that it was God telling you to move, rest assured any hardship or trouble that you run into, He is already aware of it and already has a plan to get you through it. Know that for sure. Have I experienced that personally? You better know I have. There have been times I have experienced things that I'm like, ooh, let me go flip some burgers, fry some chicken to get through this. But I had to come to my senses and know that everything that God was taking me through, and I do stress that because there are sometimes things we go through that are of our own doing, just throwing that out there. But know that everything God is taking you through, He has already made provisions for you to get through that. Learn while you're going through that because there's something in that you need to learn that will continue to take you forward into what His ultimate plan is for you. And there is an ultimate plan, rest assured. So, this is my merry moment. The plan has already been written. God is just waiting for you to follow it. Let me say that again. This is my merry moment. The plan has already been written. God is just waiting for you to follow it. But what are you waiting for? I'm just throwing that, I'm just asking the question because some of you are struggling. You're like, God, is that you calling? I don't know if this God called. Let me see if somebody else gonna tell me the Lord told me to tell you. God speaks directly to us. He speaks directly to us. When we are open and we are listening for His voice, He speaks directly to us. The audacity to walk away. And I have shared my experiences from job wise, but there are people that are trying to determine, do I walk away from this relationship? Do I walk away? This is really good from this ministry I've been serving in. Mm. Some people may think, not from ministry. Hmm. I got a story for that one too. We'll get into that. See, I told y'all this was going to be a series. Anyway, this is what's on my replay, and I want y'all to listen to this. I I don't know. I heard Pastor Mike explain this song. It's called "Winning." Like he did the old Baptist version of where he got some of the words for this song. I'm still a little bit struggling with it, but I don't know. I'm listening to it. It's on my replay because I know there's a word in there. He says, I'm gonna win, you gonna win, everybody around me winning, everything around me winning. I don't know why I'm doing this, or why I'm like shaking my shoulders. Anyway, it's got a good beat, okay? He says, woke up to a bill on the dresser, tired, and I'm trying to keep my head up. Everything's looking like I'm going to lose. Working real hard, and I'm trying to win. So then he goes into woke up this morning, I'm blessed. Food on my table, I'm blessed. Clothes on my back, yeah, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Y'all go listen to it. It's on my 2024 Spotify list. Go check it out. But I will be praying for you as you work through this season that God is calling you into. I'll be praying for you that God gives you confidence, that He gives you clarity to walk away from what you've been struggling with. It could be an addiction, but God will give you the strength and the power to walk away. All right. Y'all have a good week.